This is Wade, and you are in Wade World. Today, we are tackling the question of the century is immigration and invasion. That's an interesting concept. So, for those of you who agree or disagree, and if this triggers you, definitely let Wade know in the comments. But for those of you, we're going to take this from the perspective of those of you who are going to immigrate somewhere. So basically, what we would like to say developing countries or undeveloped countries, right? So, first part is for you guys. So, you think that going to another country, getting a job there, making a lot of money, and then sending that money back home will help your family, right? And the reason you think that is because all of the media, the Western media itself, your media, and all the education system has never really educated you on how unnatural and dangerous this is. Throughout history, people never traveled away from their country, and they were definitely not allowed to go to another country and work there and send the product of their work in another country back to their home. This would literally be stealing. And regardless of how close the world has become and how easy travel has become, this is not about travel or easiness or how close we are. This is about policy. So you have to understand every time you go somewhere else, right? You're looking for a better life. Well, there is someone in that country whose people actually bled to build that country who is losing out on the work that you are doing unless you are extremely, extremely gifted. And trust, Wade, the amount of people who are extremely, extremely gifted are less than 100% in almost most countries. And they are the kind of people who other people would want to immigrate, but that's not you. That's not most of you, honestly. Less than 0.001% is very few. We're talking one in millions, right? Who would be a net benefit to the other nation. The other nations would be fighting over somebody. And usually nations don't even do that. They're like, you know what? If you're that gifted, it's okay. We understand you don't want to come to us and make your own nation better. So your entire premise is based on it's all cool and this is normal, but you are never taught the cost of this to somebody else. Now let's flip it. The best way for you to understand this is that let us suppose you like your country, you want to stay in your country, you want to work in your country, right? Whichever country you're from, maybe from India, country like Eritrea, Ethiopia, maybe in South America, country like Mexico, Panama, whatever, right? 100% there are people from even more primitive countries who are an issue because they come into your country and do the job that you would want to do for cheaper. As long as you are a majority in your own country, this is not an issue. But if there are some areas where these kind of people are the majority, go and visit them and see how uncomfortable you feel. Do you understand? So, how these people make you feel in your country is how you are making the people feel in their country when you go there as an economic migrant to basically steal a job from someone, not provide more value than the average person of that country, and basically send the fruits of your labors back home. Regardless of the reason, you love your family and all that, you can love your family at home. You can love your nation and society at home. You can make it better at home. If there are no opportunities, running is what cowards and girly men do, and girls do. Strong men change the system. So that is for the people who are thinking of going somewhere. For the people who support, or maybe you don't support immigration into your nations, and we're basically going to take white nations as an example, but again, there are Oriental nations which are very attractive, like Korea, Japan, even China. And then there are also some other nations that are neither white nor Oriental, that are Middle Eastern, brown, maybe we can call them that. We have to find a better way of saying white, brown, Oriental, because it's not just about the color. There are specific races even regardless of the color. There are many differences in white people, right? Many differences in people who are called brown, yellow, or black. And again, there's a huge variation. So anyway, UAE, Dubai, Qatar, Oman, these are fantastic Gulf countries, right? People want to go there. So for you to understand that there is a limit to how much you can help other people, you have to see this scenario in your mind. Immigration only works if it's extremely limited, if it only allows people who are superior, not better, not nicer, don't have nicer, more tastier food. No. It only works if you have people who are superior to your average person in a way that benefits your civilization, not superior at throwing a ball and jumping really high, right? So that has never won a war. Superior in areas that you desire. And if those people desire to leave their nations, then you can extend them an invitation. Because immigration without integration is invasion. There, Wade said it. What does Wade mean by integration? If you really truly believe that you really like the people, and you have to like not the culture, not the cool stuff, you have to like the race, the genetic qualities of the people of the country you want to go to. Like you don't want to be like, I'm just gonna be my own guy in their country. You're gonna be like, wow, I really like the way they think and act and behave, and I want to become like them. That is what successful immigration looks like. And by nature, there is very low percentage of people that come under this category. There are very low percentage of people that actually can appreciate the genetic differences and say, you know, I fit there better. And they can actually match the standard and improve the race that they're going to. Secondly, if you go to another nation and you just marry your own people, don't learn the language, don't integrate, don't marry, and don't basically make yourself a part of that race, because it's all about race, regardless of what you've heard on TV or your nonsense, girly voiced, whiny, snarky education in college or school, it's all about race. If you're not willing to racially integrate, you are always going to be an invader. Now, we can give 1,000 examples of, if you take America, because everybody looks at America, bunches of Somalis moving into Minnesota, making it Somalian enclave funded by Jewish people who, again, don't integrate. They only marry Jews, making Jersey, New York, a lot of states, very basically Jewish governors, Jewish mayors, Jewish enclaves. Basically, Jews have imported all these people because they love multiracial democracy, because it's neither democracy, but it's definitely a multiracial hatred pool of cesspit of hate and distrust in which these people thrive. But you've got people from South America who build entire enclaves where they only speak Spanish, nobody learns English, they marry their own, they have their own children and all that. So what you're basically doing is you are invading. In the past, you couldn't just take your entire village and move to a different land. You would have to invade it. Because if you did try to take your entire village and move to another land, they would kill you because you would have to kill them to take their land. Now it's slowed down so that first you come, somebody else comes, and somebody else comes, and somebody else comes. But even back then, literally couldn't just keep importing your people. And you couldn't refuse to learn the language, refuse to learn the culture, refuse to integrate. You couldn't refuse to integrate because you were shunned then. And if it became too big a problem, you basically told, get the hell out or we'll kill you, right? So now you're saying, oh, I've got a poor economy. These people are evil. They deserve it. I need to go to their homes. All right. So you're basically going to go against biology, and we're going to give you a fantastic example of what this looks like. Everybody knows Somalians are very low IQ, very tribal. Everybody knows Jewish people are very tribal. I would say if there was a prize for the most racist, most tribal people in the world, Jews would win it handily. And that's just an observation. It's not a criticism. Um, Not yet. Everybody knows Muslims because of the religion, and especially it's a religion of Arabs, which are desert people, brown people. They're very, very ethnocentric and religious centric, right? They make enclaves. So we've heard about all of these, and none of these examples is going to make a whit of a difference to you if you are in any of these groups, South Americans, whoever. So we're going to flip this and give you a real life example. A lot of white Americans, and if you're not clear about this yet, American, the term American should in your mind not be a bunch of blacks rapping. It should literally be who built this nation from the continent, the nation of America. It's basically people of English, Scottish, German, Norwegian, Dutch descent. These are the literally the people. If you look at America before 1965, only 7 to 8 countries were allowed to immigrate to America legally, right? So there are a groups of white Americans that have realized, you know what, we can just move across the border to Mexico. There are some nice cities there. We can go there, have a better quality of life, instead of having worked my whole life to retire in a one-bedroom shitbox apartment, unable to afford groceries and dying if I ever need to get medical attention. I can cross the border, get a three-bedroom villa with maids and cooks and cleaners and gardeners, and the medical facilities are cheaper, and it's pretty much a nice place to live as long as you stay away from stupid neighborhoods in dangerous areas of the country and don't, just mind your own business. So there are multiple people in America, white Americans, who moved to Mexico. Now, when we talk about immigration as invasion and why racism is a biological defense, this is what has happened, and you can read about it. As white Americans moved to Mexico, they told their friends who said, well, that sounds great. Well, that sounds great. Let me also move to Mexico. And what happened in Mexico, a brown country, is exactly what the Mexicans and everybody else, the Somalians and the Jews, have been doing to white countries. That these people, which is very natural, right? If you speak English and you are an American, you have a certain mode of thinking. Your IQ is higher. If we're just talking about Mexico, the average IQ of white Americans is way higher than the average IQ of Mexicans. It's just fact. So you like different things. You don't like extremely loud, noisy, low IQ music or celebrations. You like quieter things. Even if you like the louder things, maybe it was a phase in your teenage years, everybody's hormones are pumping, that's fine. But it's a very, very different culture. The Germanic, Anglo-Saxon, Nordic culture is very different from the culture of the mestizos who make up Mexico, right? So a lot of white American retirees have moved to Mexico, and then they invited their friends, and now there are enclaves of white Americans in Mexico telling Mexicans like, hey, you can't celebrate dumb, loud birthday parties. You can't celebrate dumb, loud, what is it, quinceanera or whatever 15, 16-year-old party they have. You can't celebrate uh, dumb and loud celebrations of weddings and stuff, which is basically the Mexicans have a right to do that because it's their land. Their ancestors bled and fought for it. They have a right to actually be as loud as they want and celebrate all the festivals they want in any manner that they want. But now there is a bunch of foreign immigrants who have come to Mexico, and as all immigrants do who don't integrate, they are now telling the Mexicans, like, hey, we are the majority in this area. We're not going to really learn Spanish, and we're not really going to integrate, but we're big enough now, so you guys, you need to modify your behavior to adjust to us. Doesn't feel good, does it? Now, imagine if you are in Somalia, right? Well, let's not take Somalia. You guys are like a 60 IQ people, so this is probably going to fly over your head. You're going to fly into a murderous rage and, loot some ships or something. Let's say you're from India, another country. So you're like, wow, we can go there and just keep hiring my own friends, and I'm going to fire everybody else, because a lot of you people think this way. This is literally you're nepotistic to your own people. You don't integrate. You don't want to learn the culture. You don't want to integrate to the culture, and you have your good reasons for that. You're like, we've got our own tradition and all that. That's fine, but then you're not really an immigrant. You're an invader, right? Because you want to set up an enclave there. Now imagine a bunch of Germans move to India And so many of them moved to India that they just took over an entire part of a small city and made it German only. Only Germans are allowed here. And they started to get violent if Indians wanted to come into that part of the city, right? And you saw that with Arabs and the Muslims that were in India. Same with Vietnamese people. Just as an example, is going all over the place. If Vietnamese people had suddenly had a bunch of Japanese people just show up and be like, yo, this part of the town is ours now because we've been importing our people for 20 years. Everybody speaks Japanese here. We don't care about your religion, your culture, and your land. And don't dare come into this enclave because it's Japanese and we're going to kill you. Doesn't sound good, does it? The difference is that the Americans and the Germans, the Japanese today, would not be violent in their enclaves. They would just be pushy. They just push you out. But the natives would definitely react violently to obviously alien, racial alien people. Obviously racial alien. Not just about the skin, not just about the hair or the eye color. It's about the facial structure, the bone structure. Like they are different people. You just look at them. Like a Vietnamese person can look at a Japanese person and say, yeah, that's not a Vietnamese person, dude. Like an Indian person can look at a German and say, that's not a German, that's not an Indian. And vice versa. A German can look at an Indian and say, yeah, you're not a German. You can have a German passport, but you're not going to ever be a German. At least maybe your maybe descendants will if you integrate. An American is never going to look like a Mexican. You can have the passport, but the foundational Americans are white. And they're a very specific kind of white. They're not Italian white, they're not Slavic white, they're not Caucasian white. They're Nordic, Alpine, and Anglo-Saxon whites, right? So, and again, the same way, if you're from one of these countries and go to America, you can become a citizen. That's fine, but you have to be honest. You're not going to ever magically transform into an American or an Irish or an English person. Like that's just not going to happen. You have to integrate. You have to racially integrate, and you have to be of sufficient value that your integration benefits their race as a whole, right? So if we look at what the situation is now, it is that a lot of people who want to immigrate to white countries, and let's be brutally honest, England is successful, the UK is successful, not because of diversity, but because it was white. America was not a melting pot before some Jew came and wrote it on the Statue of Liberty. It did. A Jewish woman did this. She wrote and put that way, give me your tired, you're poor, you're hungry. This was not America before. America was successful not because a bunch of people from different countries from absolutely dissimilar races came together. It was because a bunch of very similar races came together to build it, and they were white. Japan was successful not because a bunch of Vietnamese and Africans and Indians and Pakistanis and Bangladeshis went there. Japan was successful because it was racially very, very homogenous Japanese. So you want to go to these countries that are racially homogenous, and you've been told like diversity is their strength. Their own media tell them diversity is our strength. 80% of the retards in these countries believe it. Truly, diversity is our strength as long as I don't have to actually support it. Like a lot of these people, these white people in these countries that you go to, look up videos. They march like, refugees welcome. You go up to them and be like, I've got a refugee dude right here. Do you want to put him in your house? Oh, I can't. My house is not big enough. I'm renting. I don't have space. So basically, these people are retarded in that they want to support something that sounds good, but they don't want to actually do it if it hurts them. You understand? You people who are trying to go to these white countries. So understand that you are not immigrating to these countries because they have been made successful by your people. They have not. But you are being used as literal invaders. Now, you might not feel like an invader. You might not even support it. But you should understand that unless and until you bring something that is of higher value to the race that built this country, the race, not the culture, not the nation, not the civilization, the race. You are not a net benefit, you're a net negative. And secondly, you have to integrate. You have to absolutely adopt the language, the modes of thinking, the principles of the culture, and your descendants have to be from that race. They have to be. So not only do you have to be A, invited in and really sought after, but B, you have to then prove that you're a net benefit and you are willing and happy to integrate. They look forward to it. That is what is called genuine immigration, that you genuinely like these people. Japan, again, we come back to Japan. It's a fantastic example. You can be the most, in media, and objectively, we would say tall, blonde, blue eyed human beings usually look desirable. And they do because of the absolutely insane evolutionary pressures put on them to develop these features. They could go to Japan, right? But they will never be Japanese. They could love the culture, they could embrace the mode of thinking, they could learn the language, they could be more conservative, they could be more heritage Japanese, act like it than the Japanese themselves, but they will never be accepted as Japanese. Maybe three, four generations after 3, 4 generations, their descendants might be accepted as Japanese, and only if the first guy marries a Japanese person. And the rest of the descendants have to keep marrying the Japanese people. And the Japanese people make some of the best things in the world, the most well thought out things. So you have to understand, to live in a nation where you have such intense pressure on you and you're never going to be accepted in your lifetime as truly one of them, requires an actual love and actual affection and sacrifice for that race of people. That means genuine desire, genuine affection, genuine appreciation, genuine love. And this is nothing to cast aspersions on your people. Your people might be absolutely fine. It's just that you would want to do that. So, really, if you're trying to immigrate to these countries and if you have the IQ to understand these questions, the intelligence to understand these questions, ask them, do you genuinely like the race of people whose countries you're going to, or are you angry at them? You think they owe you something? Because if you think they owe you something, you're angry at them, you think they're stupid, you shouldn't go to their nations. You're an invader. Are you genuinely interested in embracing their cultures and traditions, which might be very dissimilar from your own? They might eat things that are forbidden in your culture. They might drink, which is forbidden in your culture. Their tradition practices might be forbidden in your culture. If any of the answers is no, you're not an immigrant, you're an invader. Are you appreciative of their religion? Because if you're not, you are not an immigrant, you are an invader. It's basic, that's it. Either you convert to their religion, or at the very least, you appreciate their religion, but you don't practice yours. That's also another thing. Freedom of religion, as envisioned in America, was a bunch of Europeans deciding you can be Protestant, you can be Catholic, and you can be uh, Orthodox. That's what they meant. They didn't mean like you could be Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, and all this. They did not. And if they did, if you can bring out the sources that did, then it was foolish. Because if you can't respect the religion of the people, that is literally a part of their identity that keeps them from going insane, then you're not an immigrant, you're an invader. So, fourth, unless you're willing to add your bloodline, your genetics to them, you are not an immigrant, you're an invader, because you just want to create a bunch of your people over there, which is literally the definition of invasion. And if this makes you feel bad, if you think Wade is some evil, xenophobic, horrible man, just imagine them coming into your nations and doing to you what you are doing to them. I know it's hard for most of you because you lack the ability and the empathy to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, but try to do that, right? Try to do that. Try to imagine them as people who will do the same to you in your country, what you're doing to them in their nation. Doesn't seem fair, does it? And then you will understand whether this is an immigrant or an invader. So, is immigration an invasion? In today's time, today's mode of thinking, almost 99.99999% of it, yes. Does it always have to be? No. Do you have to immigrate somewhere else to get a better life? No. And remember, if you are from a superior country, they don't call you an immigrant. They don't say you, they call you an expat, an expatriate, because you're going to live in countries that are lesser objectively successful than your own for whatever reasons. So unless you're called an expat, you're basically an immigrant. And unless you follow and understand all these 4 and 5 major points, integrate racially, integrate religiously, integrate culturally, integrate principally, and be superior to the average, at least the average of the race you are going to. And if the country that you're going to says we don't believe in race, everybody's welcome here. It's a Jewish run country. It's a Jewish run country. So if you go there, understand this message is false and you need to do your research. Like who actually built this country? What is their race? Do I like their race? And am I better at providing objectively superior value than the average of their race? You have to be above average to be a net benefit, right? Because trust Wade, when things go bad, and they will eventually, modern day immigration is an invasion engineered by Jewish people. But when things go bad, which they will, the founding stock is going to kick out and kill all of you. And you are not going to know what hit you because you're just going to think, oh, they're so evil. No, you were the one who was evil. You were the one who was invading. And this applies to you regardless of race or religion or whichever culture you're from. Understand, most of you are not immigrants or invaders. And unless you're willing to really, really invade and go the full mile, you're going to be in for a bad time, because these kind of times, this racial, multiracial nonsense, it leads to only one thing. Diversity is your death. It's not your strength. Diversity is your death. If there are dissimilar religions, dissimilar races on a genetic level, this is the worst kind of diversity, by the way. Dissimilar races on a genetic level and very dissimilar, that is the worst recipe. And the worst recipe for unity, the best recipe for division and death. Genetically, very dissimilar races are always going to fight. And how do you know you're genetically dissimilar? Just look at your face and then look at the face of the person that you're comparing yourself to. The face. Look at it and see if you can find some commonality there and how much of a degree of commonality is there. And we're going to end on a very funny note. Diversity is pushed across the world to mean unlimited number of Africans and brown-skinned people in white nations. But if we look at, very simple, very funny, but very simple, but if we look at the human beings who have the largest variety of skin tones from deathly pale to golden brown, the largest variety of hair color from black to brown to ginger to blonde, the largest variety of eye color from black, brown, blue, green, gray. What is the one race of people that has the most diversity? It's white people. It's not your people if you're not white. You know it. Most human beings who are not white have black hair. Most human beings who are not white have black or brown eyes. Right? Right? Most human beings who are not white fall in a narrower range of complexion differences. Right? Understand these things. If you can't answer these 5 questions about the country that you want to go to, then you are not an immigrant. You are an invader, even if you don't know it. And that answers the question in this 21st century. Until next time, this is Wade telling you to keep it cool, keep it smart, and as always, enjoy.